Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 591 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Jacqueline Vaughn, and we discussed 12 chiropractors in her family and her story. Stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Jackie Vaughn coming on with me from the beautiful state of Michigan. And I am out here in Grand Junction, Colorado. So anybody that watches our show, I'm really thankful for all of our guests and all of our viewers. So thank you for making Chiro Hustle really special. This is episode 591, and I'm just going to lead in and let you guys know our big why. We are really proud of what we've done with freedom of speech for chiropractic. We have documented this profession for 6.5 years and making it a depository of stories just like the one that we'll have today with Dr. Vaughn. And what we've done over time is we realized what was most important for the future of this profession. And I started to investigate that. And I said, well, what matters? Well, medical freedom really matters, and medical health freedom really matters, and family health freedom really matters. And that is something that I believe everybody should go to a chiropractor to get that guidance. So if you're not under care with a chiropractor, go find one. Philosophically speaking, we believe in B.J. Palmer's last words, that is protecting the sacred trust. If you don't know what the sacred trust is, go stop this interview right now, go search for B.J. Palmer's last words and the sacred trust. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. And then we support subluxation-based chiropractic. I know I shouldn't have to say this stuff, but the schools are losing their way and they're not supporting the tenets and the historical references of what makes this profession unique and beautiful. And that is what a chiropractor does is they check, detect, and correct vertebral subluxations. And we support that message. And then we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. I know it's a big idea, but that's what we believe in. And with that, this is episode 591, and this is Dr. Jackie Vaughn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, I had a great opportunity to warm the microphone up with you a little bit and ask you some questions before we decided to go and do this interview today. But I believe that you have a really, really cool story. You're one of 12 chiropractors in your family line. And you were saying off camera, like we would go see an uncle, and my uncle would always tell me that you don't have a headache because you have a lack of aspirin in your body. You just have something going on, and we'll get you adjusted. So let's take people back. You finished up at Palmer 1981 and Davenport, Iowa graduate. So how did you decide that back at that point you wanted to go to chiropractic school?
Well, actually, I wanted to be a dentist, and I was actually going to dental school, and I was doing all kinds of studying and playing with patients in the dental field, and I just didn't resonate anymore, just didn't feel good. So I went to my grandmother, and I was just talking with her, and I just said, it's just not right, Grandma. I'm very confused. And she just put her hand on mine. She patted my hand, and she just looked at me and she said, you know what you need to do. Go and do it. And I transferred.
Wow. And you're second generation chiropractor.
Yes.
Who led the way for you?
Well, my father came from a family of 15 brothers and sisters. The oldest uncle and the youngest uncle became the chiropractors. and then we have a slathering of in between.
So you go to Palmer College. What was your career like after you finished school up? And did you start out as an associate? Did you start out your own private practice? What did that look like?
Well, actually, one of my cousins was in practice in Waterford. He graduated about 18 months before I did. And I was working with my uncle a couple of days a week because I had both of my children while I was in chiropractic school. So I had little ones. And I was working with my uncle for a couple of days out of the week. And he said, well, why don't you go talk to your cousin and see what's going on there? And we did, and we had a practice together for about 2.5 years, and we parted ways, and he went about a mile down the road, and I stayed at the building that we were in and built my practice from that point on.
So have you been at the same place ever since?
No, I was at that location for 21 years, and then I'm at the new location for going on 22 years now.
So throughout this whole journey of being in the chiropractic family and going to the fountainhead of chiropractic, which is Palmer College in Davenport, Iowa, what would you say makes you unique in the chiropractic world other than the fact that you're from a big chiropractic family?
Well, when I was going to chiropractic school, there were very few women in the practice. In fact, I graduated one of 8 women in our class that started from beginning to end. There were 8 of us that went all the way. So it was very, very, very unusual for women to go into the chiropractic field.
Yeah, and current stats are out. I don't know if you trend with what's going on currently in the chiropractic profession, but I think it's over 50% of the students in school now are women.
Yep, I did know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool that like we actually have the nurturing class of people that are actually now becoming chiropractors, and I think it's really cool for the future of the profession.
I love it. It's been a long time coming.
For sure. So let's give the advice column now. If we'll just talk about, like, we got a student that's finishing up at one of the 18 schools in the United States, and they're like, gosh, what do we do? What advice would you give to that student, like, to make sure that they're going to be successful with their upstart career and have longevity in chiropractic?
I would definitely advise any new student coming out of school to get in touch with some type of a mentor, somebody that a business coach, something that can help them. They do learn some business in school now. They didn't teach any type of business when I was in chiropractic school. But I think they need to really connect with somebody that can kind of show them the way.
So early on, did you plug in with a practice management group?
I probably didn't do that until I was probably 10 years into practice before I actually did anything like that. Again, like I stated, I had little ones. And so I was busy building my own on my own and raising my children. So I didn't do it till about 10 years in.
So how did that help transform your business? Like when you started getting to coach 10 years into practice?
It started to definitely skyrocket. It gave me some insight that I just didn't know. I had no clue on how to do much of any kind of marketing or any of that. Today's field, of course, everything is computerized and it's wonderful. But I didn't have any of that, and they started doing it. Computers were just coming into being when I was doing it.
So as you started to build your practice, what did you do to start getting growth and new patients with when you're still raising your kids? Like, how did you grow your practice? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are really curious.
Got out in the community. I joined the chamber and of organization that I could get into. I joined it. I just went and showed my face to everybody. I would always go into the banks and talk to the people. I would talk to people in the restaurant, passing out business cards all left and right, just getting my face out there so that people knew who I was, could recognize me.
So grassroots marketing, going out, meeting people in the community, shaking hands, showing up to events, joining organizations like the Chamber of Commerce.
Everything that I could join, I joined.
Well, that's really good advice for the chiropractors of today. If you're out 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, go and become active with your local community. I think that we can't say that enough, because so many times the current way that people interact, they think that it's a Facebook ad that's going to grow their practice, which it might, or they think that it's a TikTok thing that they do that's going to grow their practice, which it might. But really, old school marketing works, and you have to go out there and become a member of your community if you want people to know who you are, and you want to grow your office, right?
I think so. Just go and smile at people and tell them who you are, what you do.
So as that continues, what type of events would you prefer to go and do to grow your practice? Did you do any type of weekend screening events, or were you out there like at 5Ks and races and things like that too?
I did screenings. I did talks in the office. I did whatever I could do to get people to shake my hand and say hi.
So based on that, what didn't work? What did you try that you thought was going to work that didn't?
Oh my gosh. I can't remember what they call it. You buy these like hometown insert.
Like a value pack.
Yes, a value pack. Exactly. That didn't work at all for me. It may work for somebody else, but it did not work for me at all.
So did the new patient orientation workshops that you did inside the office work for you?
Yes. Yes. We always wanted to make sure that they brought a friend. It started off as patients coming in and talking to them about their health, and bring somebody else in just so they can hear what we have to say. And more times than not, I would get more new patients out of having those kind of talks.
So there's a great takeaway for anybody watching. If you want to grow your practice and do internal referrals, I think that's a really great strategy, is having a weekly workshop that you do and talk about the chiropractic why, and talk about the chiropractic story, and bring in your patients that are. So did you require all new patients to come to this thing, or did you just kind of say, hey, we're having a workshop, bring a friend?
I did at first require all new patients, and then it was just anybody that wants to come, just bring a friend. Let's spread the word. Let them hear what we have to say, and if it feels right, sign them up.
So let's go into a little bit of where you see the profession going. I know that the profession's been around for 127 years, and there's a long journey in front of chiropractic. What do you see where do you see the profession headed in, say, 5 years from now?
Well, I see it going in a good direction. It's come a long way again since I've been in practice. Michigan is a very strict state to practice in. It's probably one of the most strict states to practice in. But I have seen things are getting a little bit more lenient, and things that were never allowed for us to do are now becoming allowed. So it's going in a positive direction. I when I got out of school again 43 years ago, the medical profession and the chiropractic profession were like the McCoys and the whoever those people were.
The Hatfields.
Hatfields and McCoys. I mean, you just threw daggers at each other if you crossed the room. And now it's just everybody's learning to play nice. And I think it's just getting better and better and more more encompassing. Everybody is looking for their niche, and chiropractic is definitely heading in a very nice direction.
Why do you feel that the trend is changing for more acceptance and more inclusion within the two medical providers?
I think we're both getting smarter. I think people are really asking for chiropractic. People are becoming much more aware of natural, holistic things rather than being jabbed and stabbed every time they turn around.
Yeah. So do you think that over the past 3 years, we've seen a huge shift in trend for people looking for chiropractic more?
I think so. I think COVID really created a stir in chiropractic. Questions about how things were handled during COVID, and people becoming just more aware of what is going on within our world, basically.
Mm-hmm. So people are more curious about what they can do to stay healthy. I was talking to my friend today. We were just having a general call, and he's like, "Dude, I tried to send you this link with the guy that founded the UFC, like Dana White." And I was like, "All right." He's like, "Yeah." They asked him like what he's doing for his health, and he's like, "All I can tell you is I won't go to an MD." He's like, "I don't go there. I won't go there. And I won't tell anybody that I love to go to see an MD." And he's like, "If I'm breaking my arm or if one of our fighters gets like hurt, I would recommend them to go see an MD for the emergency medical providing that they do." And, that's kind of been a theme. I've been in the chiropractic profession for 15 years. And the theme that I always kind of heard was, you go to a medical doctor for emergency services, and we do a really good job with that. And if you look at the health score and the health grade of where we are as a country, I think we're almost at 40.
It's pretty sad.
I think we're 40th with health, a health grade score for us as a nation.
Yep, I totally agree with that. I hear it all the time in my practice. People will always say, "I will come to you before I will go see a medical doctor. If a bone is sticking out," they said, "I'll go see them." But other than that, they're
well, I think it's an idea of trauma care.
Yeah.
And I think that we do probably one of the best in the world with trauma care. But when it comes to keeping people healthy long term and quality of life care, I've always thought chiropractic was something that needed to be more talked about and easier to refer to. And I think, honestly, every chiropractor that I talk to, I say, "Hey, you should do two things. If you have the joint practice, is that if there's a joint in your community, go make friends with the director of that and tell them, look, we take x-rays here. We do things a little bit different than you. We take people that have disc issues. We take people that have more complicated cases than what you guys do. If you guys get those types of cases, please refer them over to us."
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, so you build referrals within your community. And, I always tell chiropractors too, build the Rolodex of all the chiropractors in your area, and 52 weeks a year, you should be going out to lunch, and you should be taking at least one chiropractor a week to lunch with you so you can get to know them. And now you should probably get somebody to start adjusting you too, because I know that's a big problem in the profession too, is chiropractors want patients to follow their care plans, but the chiropractors aren't taking care of themselves. So it's really cool. You come from a chiropractic family and you work with your daughter.
Right.
But yeah, I think
have that problem.
I think we can do a whole lot better at building our network and building, a community, because really that's what people are looking for now. As the 3 years have gone on from the whole, we're going to either put you in a camp where you get shots or you're getting in a camp where you don't take shots. But really what's happened is now people are looking to say, where do I belong? We have to give people identity again.
COVID really shocked the medical profession in general, I think. And it really opened people's eyes, and there's just a lot of questioning going on. And I think it's good.
Well, I think it stirred up a lot of people's interest into finding different ways to get healthy. And I think even from the medical community, they're like, hold on, you guys made us do this stuff, and now we don't want to be a part of your world. And I think back to what you said is, once this happened, even the medical professionals, they're saying, I would rather work in an integrated office with chiropractors than I would rather go work in this big box medical system, which is the hospital or some type of a scare care practice. Like, I want to work with chiropractors now. So I think what you said earlier is like, we're starting to see this trend shift where more medical practitioners, nurse practitioners especially, they want to integrate and work with chiropractors.
Absolutely. I definitely am seeing that trend. I have many orthopedic surgeons, doctors, and nurses that are actually referring to me in probably the last 4 or 5 years than in the previous 35 years.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle. Well, that's another thing that I've seen shifting is I tell our new grads specifically, like, look, go to all the urgent cares within a 7-mile radius of your practice and go and meet the clinic directors of those organizations too and say, hey, I'm the chiropractor over here. We don't do drugs or surgery. And if you want to keep your people that come in here for urgent care healthy, please refer them over to us. We'll make sure that we follow the guidelines within chiropractic. But I know that you guys are probably getting a lot of musculoskeletal concerns that come in here that you don't want to give people a prescription. So refer them over to us and we'll help those people too. So 2 referral sources I tell all chiropractors to go for is build relationships with other chiropractors, specifically the joint. Because a lot of times people think about the joint, they're like, oh, they're ruining chiropractic. But really, they might devalue it to a certain level, but they are seeing a lot of people that otherwise would not have access to chiropractic.
Well, you can't go wrong in that aspect then. We need as many people getting their spines healthy and just getting not only their spines, but their minds. Also get them in a different mindset.
And at least they're investing something into their health.
Correct.
Instead of like, wait till I used to joke around when I worked in the clinic, but I'm like, men are like Mr. Potato Head. Like, they'll wait till their legs ready to fall off and put it in a suitcase and come back into the office and say, hey, my legs falling off. It's in a suitcase. Can you put it back on me? Like, they'll wait till like the worst case scenarios. And I think now, because of certain groups that are doing cash-based payments, like, people are saying, wow, if I just maintain my body, I can have a healthy spine and I can have a healthy nervous system and I can have a healthy immune system, which some of these things were taboo to talk about 3 years ago. And like, if you get adjusted, just baseline, you're going to have a healthier nervous system. And if you get adjusted just baseline, you're going to have a healthier immune system. But they were never talking about this. But now you're saying this. People are starting to wake up. The medical profession's starting to wake up. And they're like, yeah, I go to the chiropractor. And here, this is why. Because it actually keeps people healthy. And we don't have to prescribe to them. And I think that that's a really important thing is people are looking for exactly what chiropractors are doing.
Totally agree.
So let's go back into you a little bit and open up, some conversation about who are some of the people that inspired you. So who are some of your heroes that helped make you into the person you are today?
Again, I have to go back to my grandma. She was born in 1889, had 15 kids. And she just, she saw everything going on in the world. She saw both of the big world wars. She saw Korean War, Vietnam War. She saw airplanes, cars. She was just a miraculous woman. She died a month shy of her 99th birthday, and she was on no medications, nothing.
And see, that's the thing is when I was making our first chiropractic documentary, I interviewed a guy named Billy DeMoss. And I said, Billy, what's the big problem in the world right now? And he's like, well, this is in 2015. He's like, the average person's on 12.9 prescriptions. And he's like, I don't take any. And I was like, you know what, Billy? I don't either. So that means that somebody else is like on double that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. I remember one time I had a elderly woman coming into my office, and she was she was being medically poisoned, and her daughter brought in a literally a suitcase, an overnight, used to be those makeup cases that we used to have, filled with prescriptions, and she was taking these every single day. And I said, you can't. She was taking this pill to counteract the reactions to this pill, that she was taking another pill to counteract. And I looked at her and said, you have got to get your mother to the hospital. She has to detox. She's going to die. And she called me 3 days later and she said her mother kind of went into a coma and she had medication poisoning. And I saved her life, is what she said, basically, sending her to the doctor.
Yeah, it's just there's so much that goes into patient care. And I think that the thing I've always loved about chiropractic is you guys invite people in almost to the point of like, we're going to take care of you. And even if you can't afford it, we're still going to take care of you. Like the chiropractic system has been so giving and so full of care that like even when people like don't know how to like get care, like the chiropractor's like, fine, just come and see me and refer your friends in. Like I think that now we're starting to see though where people are actually like seeing the value and they will help people, the chiropractic profession, they will help pay cash. Like the people are even getting smarter now as consumers, and are like, I know our insurance sucks. Like we don't want to use insurance. Like how can these benefits actually like do anything for me? I know we're paying for it out of like some type of a benefit package, but I understand like we'll pay you cash. And I think that even the consumer has shifted, right? You still with me?
Yeah, you froze up.
Okay. So second part of that question is, if you could sit down with anybody for an hour and talk to them, who would you choose?
Golly, BJ Palmer. I would just pick his brain and find out where he got this knowledge, this insight. I mean, that was one brilliant, fabulous man. He was just a genius.
Yeah, I think he doesn't get honestly enough credit in the history of mankind for what he's accomplished and what he brought to the world with chiropractic. And I was on an interview like maybe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, but I said, it'd be really cool going back and listening to old recordings of the radio station.
Oh yeah.
And hearing who he brought on as guests and who he thought was interesting enough to like get airtime and how he did advertising on the radio station And really, that's how BJ made the money he made was through marketing, through the radio station. It wasn't just through the Palmer College of Chiropractic.
Yeah, he was a genius. That would be quite enlightening and interesting to go back in time and just pick his brain, see what was going on.
So what era of BJ would you want to talk to? Would you want to talk to BJ the teenager? Would you want to talk to BJ the 20 something, the 30 something, the 40 something, the 50 something?
I would like to talk to BJ when he was just beginning to figure out chiropractic. See where the mechanics of his mindset, where he was getting this information, how he was coming about developing his craft. I think that would just be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think, I would have liked to meet him when he was on his journey traveling around the world. I think that would have been a real fascinating time to meet BJ Palmer when he was traveling around and collecting the swords and collecting all of like the exotic statues that he would go around the world and have sent back to Iowa. I think that would just be really cool. And to just ask him, like, they didn't have airplanes. Like, how did you decide that you're going to like get from this place to this place? Like, how did you line up travel to go across this part of the world? I know he took a lot of trains, but like there's a lot of places where they didn't have automobiles. Like, how is he getting from all these different locations? Like, that would have been like the thing I'd have been really curious to talk to BJ Palmer about.
Yeah, conversation with BJ Palmer, absolutely incredible.
So at the end of our conversation today on Chiro Hustle, I always like to get a final segment, and that's a miracle story. You said you've been practicing for 43 years. Send us off with something that you've seen over the course of your career that has inspired you and still inspires you today.
Golly, after 43 years, I have numerous miracles. I think every time you adjust somebody, it's a miracle. I remember one particular incident. This little boy, I think he was about 18 months old, and he just had ear infection after ear infection after ear infection on all these antibiotics. He was at his mother was at her wit's end, and he was scheduled to have the tubes. And she had heard me talk about how tubes really didn't do a whole lot for him. So she brought it, and she did this without her husband knowing it. He was very, very anti-chiropractic. And the baby was scheduled to have the surgery the following week. And she brought him in and said, I need you to take a look at him. I need you to adjust him, but don't say anything to my husband. He was also a patient. Don't say anything to my husband. He's just adamant not to have this done. So, okay, we adjusted the little guy. I think I adjusted him 3 times that week. And she took him in to go in for the surgery. And lo and behold, he had no ear infection. It had miraculously cleared up. And of course, the medical profession said, well, the antibiotics finally worked. They did what they were supposed to do, and his ear infections are gone. She knew, and I knew. And finally, she told her husband what had happened. And all the kids became patients at that point.
And that's just it. That's the power of chiropractic. One adjustment can change a life, and a lifetime of chiropractic can change a life. And I think that that's the best part about it. And when you have a chiropractic family like yours, you change a lot of lives. And because of chiropractic and the way that you grew up, it changed yours too. So I think that that's the real miracle. I think the real miracle is having 12 chiropractors in your family line. And now the fact is you're perpetuating the future of chiropractic with your daughter in your practice. And I think that that's the real miracle, is what you're able to accomplish by being a trailblazer and being one of the women in the chiropractic class 45 years ago, and deciding that it was the right thing for you to do. So I just want to thank you for your years of service to this profession and all the lives that you've changed, and including yours and your family. So it's been a real honor to have you on this episode of 591 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience today?
No, you've made it very easy for me to do my first podcast, and I thank you for that.
Well, it's been a real honor to get to know you and to hold space for you and to let you talk about things that really matter to you. So hopefully the people that watch us get some takeaways on ideas of old school marketing and how that translates to building your community, and the big idea, and telling the story and holding the workshops and the talks inside the office and getting everywhere that you can go and still handing out your business cards. I think that there's still things that you can do to grow a practice, joining the Chamber of Commerce and joining the professional networking groups and going out there on your weekends and doing the events and getting to know your community from a boots on the ground perspective. So I really appreciate your perspective on so much of the chiropractic profession and growing a practice, and the advice for the new grads, and get a business coach, get a business coach, get a business coach. And that's my takeaway today. So with that, I'll close out the way I always do, and I'll tell everybody, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Dr. Jackie, bye for now, okay?
Bye, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.